Title image. Documentation and Usability written by Candice Savanen, contributed and edited by Sarah Whelan and Jeff Leake, part of the ITCR training network, and created through the Johns Hopkins Data Science Lab. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this slide presentation are available for use under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 license. You are free to adapt and share the work, but you must give appropriate credit, provide a link to the license, and indicate if changes were made. Sample attribution. Documentation and Usability by Johns Hopkins Data Science Lab. CC by 4.0. This course will demonstrate how to understanding why usability and documentation is vital, identifying your user community, building documentation and tutorials to maximize the usability of developed tools, obtaining feedback from your users. Learning objectives. This chapter will demonstrate how to understand good documentation increases the impact and usability of software tools. Understand good documentation is helpful for both tool developers and users. Tina, the tool developer, says, "After years of tedious work, my informatics tool is working." Tina's awesome tool is a sparkling brand new. Upon finding Tina, the tool developer's awesome tool, Uri, the tool user, says, "Tina's tool is just what I need for my research project." Tina's awesome tool says, "Unintelligible warning, error. The jargony sounding thing has encountered a problem, and is on fire with the word error written all over it." Uri, the tool user, is distressed and confused. Uri, the tool user, says, "I have other projects due. I can't spend more time trying to figure this tool out." Tina's awesome tool is still on fire with errors written all over it, but has been thrown in a wastebasket by Uri, the tool user. There is no documentation to help Uri, the tool user, figure out how to use Tina's awesome tool. Uri, the tool user, is even more distressed and has a tear in their eye from frustration. Thorough and easy to digest documentation not only benefits users, but tool developers themselves. In this next scenario, Tina, the tool developer, has skillfully created documentation that goes along with her awesome tool. The documentation is a personified document icon. Uri, the tool user, is again trying to use Tina's awesome tool and encounters warnings. Tina's tool is on fire. This time, however, Tina's documentation is present and says, "I can help," and Uri, the tool user, though not happy, is not as frustrated as before. Although Tina, the tool developer, is not present, Tina's documentation can help communicate to Uri how to navigate Tina's awesome tool. Uri, the tool user, is enamored with Tina's awesome tool that has awesome documentation because it has helped them wrap up their research project that is represented by a wrapped gift. Uri, the tool user, says, "Tina's awesome tool saved me so much time and let me complete this awesome work." Uri, the tool user, is telling all their colleagues how much they love Tina's awesome tool that has documentation. Uri has a phone is posting to their professional social media accounts about how great Tina's awesome tool and documentation is. A megaphone is pointed at a crowd. More users are informed about Tina's awesome tool and Tina's work is disseminated. Future Tina, the tool developer, now has gray hair and Tina's awesome documentation is between Tina and Tina's awesome tool. The documentation says, "It's been a while. Let me reintroduce you to the awesome tool you made a while back." Colin, the contributor, says, "Tina's documentation introduced me to the tool so well that I was excited to contribute a new feature." The feature is represented as a sparkling coach. Tina, the tool developer, is excited to incorporate this new feature to the tool. Learning objectives. This chapter will demonstrate how to understand good documentation increases the impact and usability of software tools. Understand good documentation is helpful for both tool developers and users. Tina, the tool developer, and Uri, the tool user, both are looking at Tina's tool that has error written all over it with a warning sign. Tina says, "These error messages tell me exactly what I need to know and everything is working as I intended." But Uri, the tool user, says, "I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. These errors are unintelligible to me." Your user does not know your tool like you do. Bed Tools has nice visuals with their documentation that help explain complicated subject matter. In this figure they're showing how ranges are merged together. Learning objectives. This chapter will demonstrate how to Identify major components common to good documentation. Describe the purposes of components of good documentation. Set up our documentation templates for following along with the rest of this course. The anthropomorphic documentation has 6 major components in this illustration, including the why, getting started, how-to examples, reference guide, code comments, and user feedback. The various components of good documentation. The why, getting started, how-to examples, reference guide, code comments, and user feedback are on a continuum in that order from the most to least amount of time spent invested in a tool. This chapter will demonstrate how to understand the goals of a Getting Started section. Make installation step instructions more user-friendly. Write a user-friendly Getting Started section for your tool. Your new users are represented as a baby chick emoji who is surrounded by a photo of an alligator labeled with your tool's software dependencies. Software dependencies and other installation problems can easily overwhelm new users. The documentation tells Uri, the tool user, to look for a screenshot. Uri has that same screenshot and says, "This matches what I'm seeing. I'm confident I'm on my way." Install steps goals include: be as clear and specific as possible, copy and paste commands. Assure your user about what to expect. Address any common pitfalls. Address how operating systems might differ. Provide steps for software dependencies. The software tool says, "You installed me successfully." The new user, represented by a baby chick, is rewarded with some rewarding output, represented as a gift. Here is a screenshot of SnakeMake's documentation. It shows the sidebar, which has installation, a tutorial, and another short tutorial. Here is a screenshot of GSEA's documentation. It shows screenshots to assure the user what to expect. This chapter will demonstrate how to understand the goals of a how-to examples. Describe components included in useful how-to examples. Create how-to examples that will increase your user's familiarity with your tool. Uri, the tool user, has a thought bubble with the basic concepts of the tool, which are represented as various food ingredients: an apple, butter, milk, eggs. Uri, the tool user, has a question mark about how to create an endpoint that is represented here as a pie. Example code is not the same as backend code. It is primarily meant to teach. Useful how-to examples. Covers what your users are interested in. Gives every step specifically. Provides example data. Doesn't require more packages. Models best practices. Gives tailoring tips. This chapter will demonstrate how to understand the goals of a reference guide. Describe characteristics of helpful reference guides. Create a reference guide that will aid your user's ability to interpret and utilize your tool to the next level. Uri, the tool user, has encountered an error in the tool that says, "Error flux capacitor cannot take this data format." This causes Uri to think of a question. What kinds of data formats does the flux capacitor take? This will lead Uri to look up flux capacitor in the reference guide. Helpful reference guides are searchable, are comprehensive, describes data formats. Entries are consistently formatted. This chapter will demonstrate how to understand the goals of good code documentation. Describe characteristics of helpful code comments. Good code documentation is a part of writing good code. Increases the readability of your code. Clarify where the code requires explanation. Can help you write out your thought process. This chapter will demonstrate how to understand the goals of obtaining user feedback. Construct user feedback methods that inform work on your tool. Create a plan for how to obtain user feedback for your tool. Tina, the tool developer, and Uri, the tool user, both are looking at Tina's tool that has error written all over it with a warning sign and is on fire. Uri, the tool user, says, "Is this supposed to be on fire?" Tina, the tool developer, pours a bucket of water on the fire and says, "Oh, let me put that out." Assure your participant that they shoulder no blame. Never let the participants helping you with their valuable feedback feel frustrated. Learning objectives. This chapter will demonstrate how to add other helpful features that help usability of a tool. Determine which of these features are most useful for your particular context. Learning objectives. This chapter will demonstrate how to identify good practices for documentation maintenance, implement processes to help keep documentation up to date. Uri, the tool user, is trying to use Tina's awesome tool, but the documentation is now an ugly brown and out of date. The out-of-date documentation tells Uri to look for the red square button. Uri has a question mark above their head because there is no red square button to be seen, only 2 circle buttons and a heart-shaped button. The out-of-date documentation tells Uri 404 page not found. Uri is not happy.